Romance in anime needs to change. Period. Romance has been one of my favorite genres for years, which is why I gave a chance to all kinds of series. I saw all the beautiful and the ugly, survived every cliché, and also realized that I would never experience love. Over the years, I have noticed character archetypes as well as tropes that repeated themselves from show to show. I'm not necessarily against this, as I know it's not easy to come up with something completely new. We've been on this planet for a little too long for me to expect something that was never done before. However, this doesn't mean I'll accept every garbage they try to serve us. For too long, romance anime have been treated as a confession room where creeps present their most twisted fantasies, and I think we should call them out at every given opportunity. It's insane how every time you start a new show, you need to worry if it's going to romanticize all kinds of abuse, or if the conflict will be caused by something stupid. So, for these reasons, I decided to present you with the top 10 tropes that authors actively use in their creepy and bland stories to make them even worse. But before the list, I have to make a disclaimer. Problematic tropes are not a problem in themselves. I'm not a Puritan, and I don't want to feed into a narrative that dismisses stories that deal with uncomfortable topics. None of the things I will talk about are inherently bad. In the world of fiction, of course. Nor am I saying these should be completely abolished or that every medium that incorporates them is awful. The problem lies in the way these topics are presented. More often than not, authors write quite serious and tricky themes as a joke or something that should be romanticized. Too many times I've had to deal with a piece of media trying to convince me that what I'm currently engaging with is not that bad. In fact, it's romantic, and I'm sick of it. So please, don't look at this video as a critique of the tropes themselves, but rather as a call-out of a bad writing. Let's begin.
Hey, I was invisible! Cool!
I don't feel so good.
Starting off not so strong with miscommunication. As bad as it is, this legendary trope is nowhere near the ones that I'll mention later, which says a lot, but we'll see. The thing about miscommunication is that it is excessively overused, and also in inappropriate situations. It's true that sometimes it's hard to tell a truth or find the right words, but miscommunication we see in anime makes me wonder how the fuck the main characters are still alive. There is no way you've been on this planet for that long when you are so stupid and unable to express yourself. I'm not even talking about misunderstandings here, because for misunderstandings to occur, characters need to talk at least a little bit. But no, here they just look at each other dramatically, and when one of them runs away, the other person just raises their hand and that's it. And when they eventually meet again, they never talk about the problem. Everything is just fine, as if nothing happened. This is just a cheap and uncreative way to create drama, and I'm sick of it. But even miscommunication seems wonderful compared to rejection. The thing with rejection is that it's interpreted as a kind of a challenge for the character to try harder and be more persistent. It doesn't matter if a person has been rejected 5 or 55 times. They won't give up until they get what they want. To whoever said this was romantic, I hope Hajime Sayama picks your life battles. You know that trend on TikTok where people share stories of their grandmothers being groomed by their husbands and think it's romantic? That's what this trope reminds me of. Oh, he stalked you, harassed you, told you that you are cute when you are angry while you screamed at him through tears to leave you alone. How cute. Almost as cute as your little sister. Wait, what?
It's the motherfucking Eagle Double G. Snoop Dogg.
The next entry on the list is incest. This one was obvious and shouldn't even be mentioned here, as every semi-normal person hates it, but it's so common in anime that I had to talk about it. It doesn't matter if you are watching ecchi or action. Some twisted siblings will pop up. They may or may not be blood related, but they surely will traumatize you. Oni-chan is going to hunt you in your sleep and you won't be able to look at your siblings for the next month. Honorable mention for this category would be step-siblings. Like, they're not related and were not raised together, but was there really a reason to make them a couple? Like, are you really trying to tell me that out of 8 billion people, the only one for your character was their step-sibling? Sure, whatever you say. But please don't say anything during the confession or the kiss, because I will kill someone if I see one more of these interrupted.
Hey, bro, come on now, dawg. Come on, man.
This trope is just so uncreative that it's physically painful to watch. If you cannot come up with something more interesting to push your story forward, then I fear you are not cut out to be a writer. It's overused, it sets the story 5 steps back, and usually the reason it happened is so stupid.
No, God! No, God, please, no! No!
I'm asking again, who said this was romantic? I don't know if it's because I'm a lesbian, so the idea of violent men is not attractive to me, or if it's just a common sense. But I really do not understand how in every kind of media we've expected to root for a character who abuses the person he supposedly loves. No, it's not hot that he called you a dog. It's not hot that he stalks you. It's not hot that he told you he was going to rape you. Get your act together. And to be clear, I'm not against toxic people becoming better together. My favorite trope is enemies to lovers, which is quite toxic most of the time. I have a problem with the romanticization of violence. I have a problem with depicting toxic characters as good people who are just misunderstood. And I have a problem with using tragic backstories as an excuse for bad behavior. Okay, you wrote this character that did and or does shitty things. That's cool. But don't leave it at that, especially if you want them to be a good guy. If you already want for the characters to have a happy ending, give them a character arc. Let them see their mistakes and allow them to do better. Stop gaslighting the audience and other characters into thinking that this behavior is romantic. Be a fucking writer. As you've just seen, I have a problem with a lot of things. And this includes incompetent female characters who have to be rescued. I didn't like this as a child, I don't like it now, and I never will. And the thing is, I don't have a problem with someone being saved and falling in love with that person. But it rarely happens in anime. Usually, the girl is bland, brainless, and completely useless without her prince, and the whole setting just tells me that the author has some serious hero complex. Very rarely do I see a character who simply cannot cope with life's difficulties and therefore needs help. Even more rare are the stories where both characters are flawed people who have to grow together. The standard romance anime, especially in the more popular ones, is a male character with no visible flaws who takes care of the female character as if she were a child because she is completely incapable of anything. To put it briefly, ban the damsel in distress.
Somebody detain me!
On the opposite side of the spectrum are female characters who are obsessed with a man who doesn't give a shit about them. I understand the moment when a person intrigues you and you want to get close to them, but have some dignity. This guy disrespects you, ignores you, and can be violent, as this usually goes together with the abuse trope, and you are still drooling over him because what? Fluffy hair. This isn't as common in classic romance as it is in battle shonen, but I had to mention it as I'm the biggest hater of this trope. Not every happy ending involves a romantic relationship. In fact, I would go as far as to say that many endings are much better without it because, when placed where it doesn't belong, romance makes things worse. If there is one thing that annoys me to no end, it's when certain things are not called by their proper name, which makes me the biggest hater of love triangles. For something to be a triangle, it must have 3 sides and 3 angles. Most love triangles have 3 people, but they don't have 3 sides and therefore they cannot have 3 angles. I feel betrayed every time when I see the 2 people going after the same person because I want a full-on queer cycle. But to be fair, I'm not a fan of love triangles regardless, primarily because it's always so obvious who is going to end up together. It's always easy to guess who the endgame is, and most people root for the same character because the other one is so boring and empty. The only love triangles where I was actually surprised were The Legend of Korra and Moonlight Garden. Asami and Korra are lifetime shock, and all the characters in Moonlight Garden were so good, I wanted all 3 of them to go far away and live happily ever after. The people I don't want to get their happily ever after are those who make stories with the terrible age gaps.
That's the sound of the police! That's the sound of the beast!
Once again, the trope is not a problem. The presentation is. If the story is trying to convince me that an obviously questionable age gap is not a problem, is romantic, or something that should be desired, I'm calling it out. There are only 2 cases where I don't expect it to be seriously addressed. First, if one person is an immortal being who has been around for centuries and looks like a grown-up. Keyword grown up, so keep that lolly bullshit to yourself. And second, both people are consensual adults, and by adults, I don't mean one is 40 and the other one is barely legal, but 2 people who are at the same stage of life. Anything else should be taken seriously by the narrative and explored appropriately. If it's not, I'll assume the author is PDF file. Speaking of age, a group that has a special place in anime, especially romance, is teenagers.
Goo gaga, I want milk.
Years of watching slice of life high school romances have taught me that there is no one funnier than an anime teenager who just fell in love. Because what do you mean your partner is your reason for living? You are 16 years old. Your biggest concern is finding a cleanser that actually works and passing math. Fuck soulmate, cosmical love, and other bullshit, and focus on that biology homework. You have a partner and you 2 love each other. Great, beautiful even. But there is no reason to describe them as the light of your life and your only reason to live, especially when you have good friends and a functional family. The most annoying part is that this trope can function just fine if it wasn't a standard. Unfortunately, people go through hardships beyond my understanding, and I believe these stories might resonate with them. But I think we can all agree that anime has this weird obsession with showcasing romance as the ultimate goal and forcing characters into valuing their partners significantly more than their friendships or family relationships. I'm also really sick of the amount of characters who end up with their first boyfriend/girlfriend. It's okay to have a character who has been in a relationship before. Having an ex doesn't mean that the character loves their current partner any less. Also, how realistic is it for everyone to end up with their first partner, especially if the relationship started in high school? Of course, this is not impossible, and it is okay for high school sweethearts to exist in the world of fiction. The problem is this attitude that the realest, most sincere, and most valid relationships are those that can be characterized as the first and only. The authors try too hard to empathize that their characters weren't with anyone before they met each other, and you start to wonder why is that? Why is the only story worth telling the most innocent one? Do people really believe that romantic love means less if you feel it towards more people throughout your life? Very weird trope that I hope gets dropped soon. The point of the video: romance is shit if you want it to be. Although these are common occurrences in this genre or any series involving romance, they should not be its representatives. This part of fiction has great things to offer, and it would be a shame if you ignored them because of a few bad apples. Therefore, I'm preparing a list of romance titles that you must give a chance. So stay tuned for that, and give me some recommendations that won't make me regret living.